On the surface, it looks like a miracle. For the first time in modern history, we found something that can turn hunger down, like flipping a switch in the brain. A weekly injection, and suddenly the loudest voice in the room goes quiet. People describe it the same way. It's like the constant thinking about food just stops. And in a world where obesity has been climbing for decades, that feels like science fiction made real. But biology doesn't offer free lunches. Every miracle comes with a bill. Every too good to be true comes with a line you didn't read at the bottom. Because while the headlines celebrate the vanishing fat, the data suggests something else may be vanishing too. The engine of human longevity. And if we're not careful, we're not just watching the end of obesity. We may be watching the beginning of something darker, a frailty era. A generation that looks healthy in clothes, but is biologically weaker underneath. Because there's a difference between being lighter and being stronger. And the body doesn't care what you look like in jeans. The body cares what you have in reserve when life hits. This is the Ozempic aftermath. The Ozempic aftermath. The frailty epidemic no one saw coming. Before we go further, this content is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. GLP-1 medications are FDA approved and can be life-changing, especially for obesity and diabetes. Do not stop or change your medication based on this video. Unsupervised changes, particularly in diabetes management, can be dangerous. If you develop severe or persistent abdominal pain, repeated vomiting, fainting, severe dehydration, or sudden vision changes, seek urgent medical care. This video is an analysis of mechanism and risk, not a prescription. If you're on one of these medications, talk to your clinician about individualized monitoring and a plan to protect lean mass and function. Chapter 1. The mechanism. Turning down the world. To understand the risk, you have to understand the mechanism, because these drugs aren't magic, they're leverage. GLP-1 receptor agonists mimic or amplify signals of satiety, the body's way of saying we're good, stop eating. They don't burn fat directly like a furnace. They change intake, and intake changes everything. Here's a metaphor you can feel. Imagine your appetite is a nightclub. It's loud, it's crowded, it's chaotic. Every craving is a voice shouting your name. These drugs don't remove the club, they turn the volume down. That can be life-changing, because most people don't fail at weight loss due to lack of information. They fail because hunger is relentless. But there's a second effect that matters. GLP-1 medications can slow gastric emptying, meaning food sits longer in the stomach in certain contexts. That's part of why some people feel full quickly, nauseated, or heavy. And it's why surgical/anesthesia societies issued guidance focused on reducing aspiration risk in higher-risk patients. So the result is often a large sudden caloric deficit. And when the human body faces a sudden deficit, it doesn't behave like a motivational poster. It behaves like a government during a shortage. It starts cutting budgets. Your body needs fuel to keep the heart beating and the brain firing. Ideally, it burns fat, the firewood stored in the basement. But fat is slow to mobilize. Muscle? Muscle is expensive. It costs energy to maintain. And in famine mode, the body can make a ruthless economic decision. It burns the furniture. Not because it's evil, because it's efficient. And that's the danger. If you induce a major deficit and you don't send the keep muscle signal, your body may decide muscle is optional. Now online, this gets exaggerated in both directions. Team A says it's perfect, no downside. Team B says it's melting people into skeletons. Reality is more precise. In the Step 1 program, Semaglutide 2.4 mg, a DXA sub-study showed that weight loss was driven mainly by fat mass reduction, but lean body mass also decreased. And here's the nuance most people miss. DXA lean mass is not pure muscle. It includes water and glycogen too. So a drop in lean mass does not automatically equal your biceps evaporated. But it also doesn't mean the concern is fake.
A recent evidence review that summarizes the Step 1 DXA figures describes roughly 10.4 kg fat mass loss and 6.9 kg lean soft tissue loss in that sub-study.
Numbers that, when compared side by side, imply lean soft tissue made up a substantial portion of the soft tissue lost in that dataset. Again, not all muscle, but not zero risk either. So what's the defensible, honest conclusion? People lose a lot of fat. That's the point. Lean mass tends to decrease too, especially if deficit is aggressive and resistance training/protein are not prioritized. The amount varies wildly by person, measurement method, and mitigation. And if you think this is just semaglutide, tirzepatide has DXA data too. In a SURMOUNT-1 body composition analysis, tirzepatide reduced body weight, fat mass, and lean mass versus placebo, again emphasizing big fat loss, but lean mass changes also occur. This is the part nobody wants to hear. Weight loss is not free. The bill is paid from compartments. And if you don't decide how you want to pay, your body decides for you. Chapter 3. What frailty really is. Let's define the monster. Frailty doesn't mean old. Frailty means low reserve. It means a small hit becomes a big crash. In classic clinical research, frailty is often defined as a syndrome involving things like unintentional weight loss, exhaustion, weakness, often grip strength, slow walking speed, and low physical activity, When several are present, risk rises. Notice something? Weakness is in the definition. That's not poetic, that's clinical. And sarcopenia, loss of muscle strength and muscle quantity quality, is now understood as a major risk state in aging. European consensus emphasizes low muscle strength as a key marker, with low muscle quantity confirming diagnosis and poor physical performance marking severe cases. So when you hear frailty epidemic, don't picture thin people. Picture people with less capacity. Capacity to catch themselves when they trip, survive surgery, tolerate chemotherapy, withstand dehydration, handle a week of bad sleep and stress. Muscle is not just aesthetics. Muscle is function. Muscle is shock absorption. Think of it like the frame of a car. You can repaint the car, you can make it smaller, but if the frame is weakened, the crash is worse. And there's a reason simple strength measures like grip strength keep showing up in population studies as prognostic markers for mortality and cardiovascular outcomes. So the real fear isn't people are getting thin. The fear is people are getting thin without building strength and calling that health.
Chapter 4. The Trap, Sarcopenic. This is where the paradox gets nasty, because there's a condition that sounds like an oxymoron but isn't. Sarcopenic obesity, the coexistence of excess adiposity and low muscle mass function. A major expert consensus. Eastman describes sarcopenic obesity as the coexistence of excess adiposity with low muscle mass and function.
Translation: you can be overweight on paper and under-muscled in reality. You can be normal BMI and still metabolically fragile if the muscle base is low. So if you lose weight rapidly and do it in a way that sacrifices muscle, you can drift into a body composition that looks better in photos but performs worse in life. The scale doesn't warn you. The mirror doesn't warn you. The warning comes later, when you try to climb stairs, when your back hurts, when your balance feels off, when you get sick and you don't bounce back. Chapter 5. The Yo-Yo plus Rebound. Now let's talk about what happens when people stop, because the internet sells this as a one-time upgrade. But appetite biology is not a one-time upgrade. In the Step 1 extension analysis, after treatment withdrawal, the Semaglutide group regained an average of 11.6 percentage points of lost weight by week 120. That's not a moral failure. That's biology reasserting itself. And here's the brutal part of the rebound cycle. Fat is easy to regain. Muscle is harder to rebuild. Fat returns like a tenant who still has the key. Muscle returns like a tenant you have to interview, train, and convince to stay. So the risk scenario isn't just regain. It's regain that shifts your body composition in the wrong direction, especially if you never anchored protein and resistance training during the loss phase. Do that cycle twice, and you can end up back at the same weight but with a worse engine, a slower metabolism, less strength, less reserve. And that is how someone becomes physiologically older without aging a day. Chapter 6. The Collateral Damage. The muscle tax may be the most common cost, but it's not the only one. 1. Gallbladder and biliary disease. A large systematic review and meta-analysis of 76 randomized clinical trials found GLP-1 receptor agonists were associated with increased risk of gallbladder or biliary diseases, especially at higher doses, longer duration, and when used for weight loss. Wegovy's prescribing information states if acute pancreatitis is suspected, discontinue and initiate appropriate management. 3. Vision signal. NA-ION, optic neuropathy. A matched cohort study in JAMA Ophthalmology reported an association between semaglutide prescriptions and increased risk of NA-ION compared with certain comparators, observational, not proof of causation. Then in 2025, EMA's PRAC concluded NA-ION is a very rare side effect of semaglutide and recommended updating product information. If NA-ION is confirmed, treatment should be stopped. Rare doesn't mean imaginary, and vision risk isn't a side effect you push through. 4. The stomach/anesthesia risk. There are published case reports of delayed gastric emptying and aspiration regurgitation events in patients taking semaglutide around anesthesia, which is why anesthesia guidance evolved into symptom/risk-based approaches rather than treating everyone the same. This does not mean everyone's stomach is paralyzed. It means the effect is real enough that operating rooms had to rewrite the playbook. Conclusion: pay the tax or build the engine. But muscle is reserve. It's armor. It's independence. Frailty isn't a wrinkle problem. It's a capacity problem. Trading capacity for a lower number on the scale can become a mathematical error. So if you use the tool, respect the biology, anchor protein, lift to send the signal, track function like your future depends on it. Because it does.